Most people think horror begins with something obvious, a shadow, a scream, a moment that feels wrong from the start. But the stories that stay with me, the ones I can't shake, don't begin like that. They begin in places that feel safe, familiar, predictable, a gym you go to every day, a face you see often enough to recognize. A simple "what's up" that turns into something more. I've spent a long time reading and thinking about stories like these, and there's a pattern I can't ignore. The danger is never loud at first. It builds quietly, hidden inside normal behavior, small interactions, moments you convince yourself don't matter. And by the time you realize something is off, it's already too late. Welcome to Midnight Horror Files. If you're drawn to stories that make you question the people around you, subscribe now, because tonight, I want you to notice how it all begins. And sometimes, it begins with something as simple as seeing the same person every day. For the sake of this story, I'll call him Nolan. What stood out to me about Nolan's experience wasn't just what happened later. It was how completely ordinary everything felt in the beginning. He had a routine like most people do. Same gym, same time after work, same pattern every day. There's something comforting about that kind of repetition. It gives you a sense of control, like nothing unexpected can really break through it. And in places like that, familiarity builds fast. You start recognizing people without ever learning their names. A nod here, a contact there, eventually a quick "what's up?" It's almost automatic. You don't question it. That's how Josh entered Nolan's life. At first, he was just another regular. The kind of guy who looked like he took the gym seriously. Fitted shirts, shaker bottle always in hand, a duffel bag that made it seem like he never really left. There was nothing outwardly wrong with him. If anything, he fit in perfectly. But when I think about this part of the story, there's something subtle that stands out. Josh didn't ease into familiarity the way most people do. He didn't linger in that phase where you're just two strangers sharing space. He moved past it quickly, like he had already decided what their relationship was supposed to be. One day, Nolan was about to start bench pressing when Josh asked for a spot. That moment feels small, almost forgettable. It's something that happens in gyms all the time. And Nolan didn't hesitate. He stepped in, helped guide the bar on the last rep, did exactly what anyone would do. But the moment the set ended, the tone shifted. Josh started talking. Not casually, not in that slow, testing way people usually do when they're getting to know someone. It was immediate, fast, almost like he had been waiting for an opening. Questions stacked on top of each other. How long have you been lifting? What's your routine? Where are you from? What do you do? Do you live nearby? On the surface, it sounds harmless. Normal even. But there's a difference between conversation and acceleration. Nolan answered, but he kept things general. He didn't give specifics, didn't think much of it at the time. And that's something I keep coming back to. How often people rely on instinct without fully understanding why. Something in him knew not to go too deep. Before Nolan could move on, Josh asked for his Instagram. And this is where the line between stranger and access gets blurred in a way that feels completely acceptable now. Social media doesn't feel like giving someone real information. It feels casual, disposable. So Nolan added him. And for a while, nothing felt wrong, just slightly off. Josh started approaching him more often at the gym, asking what he was training, commenting on his form, offering advice that wasn't asked for. It wasn't aggressive, it wasn't insulting. It was just constant. Like he needed to be involved in whatever Nolan was doing. That kind of behavior is easy to dismiss. You tell yourself he's just being friendly, maybe a little socially awkward, maybe just someone who takes the gym too seriously. But then it moves beyond the gym. The messages started out harmless. Memes, short clips, things you can react to without really engaging. Nolan would respond with a quick emoji, nothing more. He wasn't encouraging conversation, but he wasn't shutting it down either. And that middle ground, that's where situations like this tend to grow. Then Josh suggested they hang out outside the gym. A local festival, public, crowded, during the day. On paper, there's nothing threatening about that. If anything, it feels like a safe way to test the situation. Nolan hesitated, but he said yes. And this is where the version of Josh that existed inside the gym disappeared. From the moment they met, something felt different. The energy was louder, less controlled. Josh greeted him like they had known each other for years, not weeks. There was no adjustment period, no sense of reading the situation. It was immediate intensity. And then came something Nolan hadn't seen before. The voices. First, it was almost funny, unexpected enough to catch you off guard. Josh would say something normal, but in a strange tone, high-pitched, exaggerated, then suddenly deep and distorted. It didn't fit the context. It wasn't part of a joke. It just happened. Most people in that moment would do exactly what Nolan did. Laugh it off. Because when something doesn't make sense, your first instinct is to normalize it. But it didn't stop. The longer they stayed, the more it escalated. The voices became more frequent, more intrusive. His jokes shifted too. Less about humor, more about shock. Comments about strangers that crossed social lines, said loudly enough that people could hear. And what struck me about this part wasn't just the behavior, it was the intention behind it. He wasn't just being inappropriate. He was testing reactions. Nolan tried to defuse it, told him to calm down a couple of times. Josh would laugh, sometimes repeating Nolan's name in a drawn-out, almost mocking tone, like it was part of some private joke only he understood. There's something deeply unsettling about someone using your name like that. It creates a sense of connection that you didn't agree to. They stayed for a couple of hours. And when Nolan left, he told himself what most people would tell themselves. He's weird, but he's harmless. That assumption didn't hold for long. After that, Josh's behavior became more persistent. The messages changed. Less passive, more direct. Asking what Nolan was doing, when he'd be at the gym, if he wanted to meet again. There was a need there now, something that hadn't been obvious before. Nolan started to pull back. Shorter replies, slower responses. And this is where the shift becomes important. Because when someone is used to having access to you, and that access starts to disappear, it doesn't always fade out quietly. Sometimes it intensifies. Josh invited him out again, this time to a bar. He mentioned other people would be there, 2 girls joining them. That detail made a difference. It reframed the situation, made it feel less personal, less one-on-one. So Nolan agreed. But when he arrived, the situation didn't match what had been described. Josh was already drinking. The girls never showed up. And just like that, the environment changed from something social to something controlled. The behavior from the festival returned, but stronger. The voices louder now, more exaggerated, interrupting conversations, drawing attention from people around them. And you can imagine what that feels like, sitting there aware that people are watching, not because something is entertaining, but because something is wrong. Nolan tried to steer things back to normal, but every attempt was cut off. Josh kept pulling the focus back, repeating his name, raising his voice, leaning into the discomfort. That's when the feeling shifted. Not just awkward, trapped. And that's something I think a lot of people underestimate. You can feel trapped even in a crowded room, even with exits all around you, if the situation itself won't let you disengage cleanly. So Nolan did what people often do in that moment. He created an excuse, something simple, something that wouldn't escalate things further. And he left. But the way Josh reacted to that, that's what changed everything. There was a pause, a look that didn't match the situation. Not confusion, not disappointment, something closer to irritation. Like Nolan had broken an expectation he didn't even know existed. And from that point on, things didn't go back to normal. And if that first story shows how quickly someone can attach themselves to you, this next one shows how dangerous it can be when someone refuses to let go. This story came from someone I'll call Lewis, and what makes it unsettling isn't just what happened. It's how easily it could have been dismissed as normal relationship drama at the start. Lewis lived in a small town in Kansas, the kind of place where routines feel safe and predictable. He worked a steady job, went to the gym regularly, and spent most of his time with his friend Colton. Their lives weren't complicated, and maybe that's why what happened next felt so out of place. Colton had been dating a girl named Addie. The relationship, from what Lewis described, was unstable from the beginning. Arguments over small things, constant tension, a need for control that didn't really make sense. But again, this is where people tend to minimize things. They label it as young relationship problems. Something temporary. Something that will either fix itself or fall apart on its own. Eventually, it did fall apart. Colton found out she had been cheating on him with multiple people, and he ended the relationship. For him, that was closure. But for her, it wasn't. A few days later, Lewis and Colton were at the gym, going through their usual routine, when a girl walked in. And right away, Lewis felt something shift. Not dramatically, not in a way he could explain clearly, but enough to notice. She wasn't acting like someone who came there to work out. She stood still for a moment, scanning the room in a way that didn't feel casual. Then she walked toward the locker room, but kept glancing back at them, like she was making sure they were still there. At that point, nothing had technically happened, but that feeling, that quiet discomfort was already there. Then they heard it, crying from the locker room, but not the kind of crying you'd expect. It was uneven, almost layered with whispering, like she was talking to herself through it. It didn't sound like someone dealing with a bad day. It sounded unstable. They tried to ignore it, and I think that's something worth pausing on. Most people, when faced with something they don't understand, choose distance over confrontation. Not because they don't care, but because acknowledging it would mean accepting that something is wrong. A few minutes later, she came out. Same clothes. No signs of actually working out. She moved through the gym slowly, not using any equipment, just drifting closer to where they were. Watching. That's the word Lewis kept coming back to. Not looking, not glancing, watching. Eventually, she disappeared. Neither of them saw her leave. And for a moment, that could have been the end of it. Just another strange encounter filed away and forgotten. But later that night, everything escalated in a way that left no room for doubt. Lewis was home when he heard knocking. First on his brother's window, then on his. When he checked, there was no one there. That alone is enough to create unease. But it didn't stop there. The knocking moved to the front door. Louder now, more aggressive. Not someone trying to get attention, someone trying to force entry. And then came the laughter. Not light, not playful. It was sharp, repeating, almost disconnected from the situation, like whoever was outside wasn't reacting to anything real, just feeding off their own energy. That's when fear stops being abstract. Then his phone lit up. A message from a number he didn't recognize, accusing him of interfering, blaming him for the breakup, telling him to stay away. And just like that, everything connected. Addie. But what came next is what turned it from threatening to dangerous. Another message. A photo. A knife. There's a point where uncertainty disappears completely, where you're no longer asking, what is this? But how serious is this going to get? Lewis didn't hesitate. He called his dad, and they contacted the police immediately. And I think that decision is more important than it seems, because hesitation in situations like this is often what gives someone unstable more time to act. When the police arrived, they found her outside, sitting in the yard, waiting. She didn't run. She didn't hide. She admitted to everything. And in a way, that's what makes this story so disturbing. There was no attempt to deny it, no effort to mask what she had done. It was all intentional. But even after it was over, one question stayed with Lewis. How did she find his address? He never gave it to her. Colton insisted he didn't either. And that detail changes everything, because it means the boundary wasn't just crossed in the moment. It had been crossed long before anyone realized it. And sometimes the most unsettling cases aren't the loud ones, but the ones where nothing is said at all. This story stayed with me for a different reason. There was no conversation, no forced interaction, no obvious attempt to get close. Just presence. Consistent, quiet presence. It came from someone who had been going to the same gym for years. Like the others, his routine was steady. Same time, same equipment, same flow. And when you repeat something long enough, you start to notice even the smallest change. That's how he noticed the man. At first, there was nothing clearly wrong. Just someone sitting on a machine, but not using it, not adjusting weights, not moving, just sitting there, leaning forward slightly, as if waiting for something. Then it happened again. Different day, different spot. Same stillness. And over time, a pattern formed. No matter where he moved in the gym, that man always seemed to be somewhere with a clear line of sight. Not close enough to interact, but not far enough to ignore. And every time their eyes met, the reaction was immediate. The man would look away, like he had been caught doing something he didn't want acknowledged. That alone might not mean much, but behavior repeated over time, that's what changes things. One night, that quiet pattern shifted. While he was lifting, he caught a glimpse of the man holding his phone in a way that didn't match normal use. It wasn't angled down like someone texting. It was directed outward, toward him. The moment eye contact happened, the phone dropped. That's the kind of moment that stays with you. Not because of what you saw, but because of what it suggests. After that, he changed his schedule. Later hours, fewer people, a different rhythm. And for a while, it seemed to work. The man was gone, but that sense of relief didn't last. One night, out at a crowded bar with friends, he saw him again. Same posture, same behavior, sitting alone, watching from a distance, breaking eye contact the moment he was noticed. That's when the realization sets in. This isn't tied to a place. It's tied to you. A couple of weeks later, he went for a run on a trail near his house. It was daytime, open space, nothing that would normally feel unsafe. At first, he noticed someone jogging behind him. That's not unusual. What was unusual was the consistency. No matter how he adjusted his pace, the distance between them stayed the same. Every increase in speed was matched instantly. Every shift mirrored. At a certain point, your body reacts before your mind fully processes it. He ran faster, and the footsteps behind him did the same. That's when instinct takes over. Not uncertainty, not doubt, just action. He broke into a sprint toward an exit leading to the street. And behind him, the pace escalated too. No hesitation, no break in rhythm. Only when he reached the street and called out did it stop. The man paused at the edge of the trail, just long enough to register that someone else was there, then turned and disappeared. And that detail matters more than anything else, because it tells you this wasn't random movement. It wasn't coincidence. It was intent, interrupted at the last possible moment. When you step back and look at all of this together, it becomes harder to ignore what these stories really share. None of them began with fear. They started with something ordinary. Routine, familiarity, a sense of control. And that's exactly why the warning signs were so easy to dismiss. Not because they weren't there, but because they didn't feel serious enough at the time. What stays with me isn't just the fear, it's how human these situations are. These people weren't careless. They were just trying to be polite, to stay open, to avoid overreacting. And that's where things slowly began to slip. Because danger doesn't always announce itself. It blends in, waits, and quietly pushes past your boundaries while you convince yourself it's nothing. So here's something I want you to think about. How often do you ignore discomfort just to avoid making things awkward? Because in every one of these cases, the danger didn't arrive all at once. It built step by step, right in front of them. And sometimes, the most dangerous moment isn't when something finally happens. It's when you realize you saw it coming and chose not to act. The lesson here is simple but not easy. Trust that feeling early. That subtle sense that something is off. It's not random, it's information. Acting on it, even in small ways, can change everything. Have you ever had a moment like that, where something felt off, but you ignored it? What happened? Share your thoughts or your story down in the comments so others can learn from it too. And if you want more stories like this, ones that make you look at everyday life a little differently, consider subscribing to Midnight Horror Files. It helps support the channel and keeps these stories coming.